Alright guys, we got an interesting one. At least for me, it's it's a heater that would not turn off. So they said they had it on heat, tried to turn it off, got really hot in the building, continued to get hot. So they wanted to see if there was an issue with the unit. Right now it's working fine. Now it's cooling. It got hot today. So we do have gas heating on this unit. Not familiar with heating, but I'm gonna look it up real quick. It's giving me 5 flashes there. So it's okay not to know everything. Like, I don't know anything about heating. That's why I watch a lot of the other guys that do heating calls, because I never get to do them. So I opened up the only other gas unit they have on the roof just to look at the other board, because the other one is flashing. This one is a constant light, so this one I think appears to be normal. I don't know if that's troubleshooting light. I tried looking it up. I can't find too much. I went off by the numbers that it had on there. Oh, this one has a list. On is normal. The 5 is a flame without gas, which sounds about right. So let me go check. I didn't even see that on the other board. Okay, so on the one I'm working on, we're gonna shut it off. And yeah, I didn't even catch that. It's not as clear as the other one. So there's our codes. So this is a troubleshooting light. So right now, I wish it was cold out, because I'm gonna have to turn the heater on with them just opening. They already got people coming in. So I'm gonna have to test that. All right, so getting in here, there's some things that don't look too good a shape. So I might write up a few things. We'll see if we can clean anything today. This is disconnected. Honestly, guys, I'm not entirely sure what that is. I'll look up a part number on it. So like I said, it's not a big deal if you don't know everything. It's okay. Ask questions. I don't have anybody to ask right now, but I will look up information. Look at this motor right here. So we're rusting out a little bit, so I'm gonna try and clean up what I can. I'm gonna see what needs to be replaced, probably a lot of these sensors, and then I'm gonna look up what this is. Like I said, I've never seen that. That might be a safety, no? And it's disconnected. So right now, let's check the heat exchanger before anything else, because then if that's shot, I'd have to condemn it. All right, there's a little rust, but it's not cracked or anything. Nothing's broken. I already went around with a screwdriver. Don't think I need to go through it anymore. It's okay. All right, so I'm gonna have to figure out how to tell them nicely that this unit does not even have heat. Does not have heat hooked up. I remember actually doing this myself, so this is one that I was supposed to come back and fix. So obviously we're gonna do that now. We're gonna look at all the sensors. We're gonna write up what it needs to get them heating, because we still have some cold weather coming up. They're probably gonna want it, but this is not the unit that they thought was giving off heat. So they have 4 units. There's 2 in the middle. Don't have any heat hooked up. The other one doesn't even have, it's like it might have been replaced and the electric heating was never put in. That's common around here. A lot of companies do that. We usually come back and put them in afterwards ourselves. The back unit's a brand new one. A few years old now, but it's new and it has electric heating. That's working. and then the one in the very front, which maybe is the one that was running, is still the old gas heater. So I'm assuming they were trying to turn it off over here because they felt it, because this is where they are, you know, the workers. And according to them, if they turned it off, it never stopped heating. But that wasn't the case, because this one doesn't even have heating. They were not essentially doing anything with this unit. It was probably the front one in the front that was still running, and they didn't go over there to check the thermostat, because the thermostats are in each location. So the one for the front is in the very front. So I'm gonna, like I said, write up what it needs. And then I looked up this part. It's actually the pressure control. Like I said, I'm not familiar with these, so I'm gonna take a look at all the flame sensors and all that. They don't look good from the outside. And then see if they want to get the heating hooked up and all that. We will have to run wire, because the reason I did take the white wire away from the heating is because we needed a common down at the thermostat to upgrade their thermostat. And then we're gonna have to run, or it's spliced somewhere actually, because I do have extra wires up here, but I don't have extra wires at the thermostat. So we're gonna have to look in the ceiling and see where it's spliced, and then either run a whole new strand if we can all the way through, or at least splice into the one that's going up here. So yeah, let me get to that. All right, I was gonna jump it out to see if we could run it, but that valve's off too. So I think somebody just already condemned it, because I had not touched that. I had not touched this. I had not even opened this compartment. So gas is still on. We'll shut that off. And then this is off. You know, we're gonna write up the sensors, the motors. Like if they want heating, I have to come in and take all this apart. So I have to get approval, so I can't just do it. And just look at the schematics when you're stuck on stuff. So on a lot of the units, the wires are stamped. So as long as they're original. So 109C, I had seen that red one go to that pressure switch, and it tells you right here, pressure switch. It's gonna close on a rise right there, and then you can see that it's tied into the rollout and all that. So just always look at the schematics and try and figure out what you're looking at, what wires are what. Sometimes if you're not even working on anything, if you're waiting for a vacuum or something, like just look over the schematic and stuff, and then you can read all the notes, and it'll tell you a few things there. You know, they can be very helpful. Unfortunately, like on older units, they're going to be in pretty rough shape. Man, my dad stopped by and he's like, why do they need heat? I don't know, down here, I don't know why they need that. It's never cold. So he told me just to, like, what I was gonna do is give him a list, write it out as a recommendation and all that stuff. He doesn't think they'll approve it. And then we'll go from there. That was just a pretty, or a mistake, kind of misunderstanding, whatever. It's a dud of a call, but I'm still charged to go check it out and all that. But that brings me to my point about not knowing everything and being okay with that. So if you guys, you know, don't know something, look it up. I didn't know about that pressure control, so I had pulled it up on my phone. A YouTube video popped up, so I clicked on it, and I had my earphones on. So while I was putting some screws back together, checking out some other things, I put my phone down and it was playing, and I had in my ear, you know, somebody going over explaining what it is and what it does and all that. So everything's at your disposal. YouTube, Instagram, manuals are all online now. So like if you can't read a schematic, you can look it up. You can look up parts, you can search part numbers, you can search boards, like everything is at your disposal nowadays. So when I started, we didn't have any of that, and I don't want to sound like an old timer, but you know, I struggled a lot when I started, and I think it's a lot easier now to learn something, you know, if you're willing to. So just make sure you're always learning. That's a big thing in this trade. All right, guys, welcome back. I'm gonna be here trying to clean up some of this shelf area that I wasn't too happy with. Went out and made another Milwaukee purchase. So I got this pack out. That's essentially the tray with the dividers and all that. So want to see if we can fit this somewhere on the shelf. I think it'll go right there. And then have some things that I need to keep upright in it, and like, you know, things like silicone, primer and all that. Maybe put some of these bottles upright and see what we can do, because I didn't like these bins that I had up here. So anyway, back to the topic of the video. I might do this more often in the future. You know, I want to do more of this kind of stuff throughout the year. Kind of talk about different aspects of the trade that maybe you guys don't know. I think for the most part, you either hear that it's too much stress, work, all that, or some people maybe make it look too easy, too simple, too much like, oh, you'll get rich quick. It's neither of those. You're going to be in between most of the time. There is stress. There is a lot of hard work. You can coast if you want to. You can make $1 million if you want to. You can make however much you want. Maybe we'll talk about that in another one. But as far as this video, since the call that I had was one of those that I'm not familiar with, I'm comfortable not knowing. I think that's one of Tito's, what do you call it, quotes. Be comfortable not knowing. You know, if you guys remember him, I think he put his channel back up because he had taken it or made it private. So I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen his videos if you're here and you've been watching YouTube for a while. My weaknesses are heat. So anything dealing with heaters, gas heating, electric heating, stuff like that, I'm not familiar with it. We don't have that around here too much. When I started, I did work on that stuff, but it wasn't like every day. It only gets cold here for maybe a week or so, and then it kind of warms up, or we get that weird in-between weather where it's like everybody just shuts off their AC, and then it's like it's cool enough in the house because it's cold outside, but it's not going to get too hot or anything, and they don't need to run heaters or the AC. So I don't really know that stuff. So if I watch YouTube, I like to watch those no heat calls that people do up north, and then kind of learn from there. If I can, I'll look at some stuff on my own time, which is what you really want to do, is you want to learn after work. So no matter what, you're gonna have to keep learning and looking up stuff on your own time. So while you're at work, like I said earlier, sometimes you can do things. You're pulling a vacuum, or you're waiting for the unit to kick on or something. Take a look at the schematic. Take a look at other parts in the area that you might be working on. Maybe you're working on the cooling side. You can look at the heating side. Take note or take pictures of the model and serial number, you know, the label if it has it. Usually they're labeled in different places, so jot it down. Go look up a manual after work. Go, read up on some of that stuff, the troubleshooting aspects. You know, just whatever you can. Like nowadays, it's so easy that if you don't learn anything new, you don't learn the right way, that falls more on you. Now, when you start, yeah, you're naive or you don't know better. Nobody taught you maybe the right way. But if you've been in this field a while, a year or whatever, you can go on YouTube. You can go on Instagram. You can even go on TikTok now. There are so many HVAC people that are posting their work, posting tips, posting how-tos, proper procedures and all that. I have my favorites that I watch all the time, and I've been doing this for about 15 years. I just learned about liquid injectors on scroll compressors. I never had that. I don't see that down here. My area is not very up to date, so we are kind of the last ones to get a lot of this stuff. I barely started seeing walk-in freezers with scroll compressors that have liquid injectors. So that's something that I learned. I'm figuring out how to troubleshoot those, and I did not know. I worked around it, and I've been able to, I learned quickly, and I try to adapt. So when I'm working on something, at its core, I always look at the basics. So it's a refrigeration cycle. You have a compressor, you have a metering device, you have an evaporator coil and a condenser coil. One rejects heat, one picks up heat. It's all the same, whether you're doing HVAC, refrigeration, light or heavy, commercial, residential. It's all kind of the same, not until you get to like the real like industrial stuff. You might get a little, or you might have to learn a bunch of other things, but for the most part, it's a refrigeration cycle. You have safeties in between. You have your compressor and your metering device. They're all switches as far as safeties, and then your metering device is what flashes. Your refrigerant essentially gives you that cooling effect. Your two coils, like I said, one rejects heat outside, the other one picks up heat inside, and then you have airflow on everything. Ice machines work similar. They're all the same for the most part. Now, I will admit I come from I don't know if it's a generation thing or if it's just how I was raised or what. I'm very much, I want to figure it out on my own. I don't like asking questions. Now, I understand that's a bad thing. So it's good to ask questions no matter what kind of question it is. So if you guys leave me comments, if you join me on my live stream, which I try to do weekly, with consideration to working late or holidays or time off that I need, or if I'm just not in town. If you guys have questions, you can ask me in the live stream. I will answer those live. If you guys have comments, I try to get to all of them, at least the ones that are from the video of the week. I'll go in there and I'll check out the comments for a few days. And those I respond to quicker, but any question you have, if you don't know something, it's better to ask and figure it out and get an answer than to go around and not do it right or not know how to do something and kind of screw up out in the field. No matter how dumb you think the question is, if it needs to be answered, you need to ask it. So I try to make myself available. I'm not the smartest person in this trade, and I don't try to be or act like I am. I'm very basic, but I like to figure things out. And like I said, at its core, it's just a refrigeration cycle and some common components. So if you put me in front of a unit, I will damn near figure it out or try my best to. I'm the type of person who does not like to call customer service, to be honest, but I've had like good and bad experiences. For the most part, the wait time is what sucks. And sometimes I've run into the issue where they don't understand what I'm talking about. Now, this was a long time ago, and it happens everywhere. It happens with other techs. That's why I don't like to talk sometimes to the older techs around here. For one, they're not doing recoveries or vacuums. They talk about dropping in refrigerant all the time, so I try not to talk too much to that or that way. So like when I started, I had a few people that I could talk to, and I really had no help. So I made a lot of mistakes when I started, which is fine, as long as you don't make the same mistakes over and over. You screw up, you kind of take a look back, you figure out what you did wrong, you go look for the answer or whatever you need to do, and then you don't make that mistake again. So that's how I learned. I messed up some units when I started out. It's whatever. If you lose a customer, there's not much you can do about it. You move on, and you just work at being better after every call. So just be better every day. If today I worked on something new, I will try my hardest to learn the most I can about it, figure it out after I go home. Stuff like that used to beat me up when I left, when I could not fix something, or it took me a few days to fix. I'd go home and I couldn't sleep. I'd be looking up stuff. I mean, back then there was no HVAC YouTubers or Instagrammers. There was definitely no TikTok. Even finding manuals online was very hard. So like I would be up trying to find literature, trying to go through my books, whatever I had as far as manuals, and try to figure it out. It would eat away at me, which is not good. So try not to take work home with you too much, or if you do, try not to let it take over all your free time. Personally, I didn't like when I couldn't fix something or it took me too long to figure it out. So then I would try my hardest to just be better the next time I went out there. Kind of recalibrate, go back out there, just be better, get more knowledge, and figure it out. And like I said, it's okay to ask. You're not going to be perfect. So anytime when I would get criticism, because I post online for everything, as long as it's criticism that is constructive, something that helps me be better and more aware, I'm all for it. Some of these guys that just want to make fun and not give you the right answer or not help you, those are the ones that I have an issue with. But like I said, you can ask me guys in the comments if you have any questions. You can reach out to me over on Instagram, TikTok, through my email. I try to answer everybody. And when I went to school, I had books, right? So I have a whole set of books over there. I do recommend a few of them, like the one Commercial Refrigeration for Air Conditioning Techs. If you're looking to get into refrigeration, stuff like that. So when I went to school, it was very like to get my basics, to get a grasp of like hooking up gauges and using tools, and then like the terms, you know, superheat, subcool, all that kind of stuff. That's what the school was essentially. You don't have to go to school, but it helps you get a jump start basically. And I would recommend a college or a community college. That way you're not paying a ridiculous amount for a crash course, is what I consider those other ones, because you're going to be there for at least 2 years or a year and a half. And it's a college setting. You get to learn, I think, better. And I went through financial aid to get it paid for. So yeah, guys, I forgot to mention podcasts. There's a bunch out there that just talk about work, talk about some manufacturers and, you know, stuff that they have going on. Some talk about different aspects after work, your life in the trades, and you can listen to those on your long drives. Like I drive hours a day. So if you can, you know, put a podcast on for your drive, learn something, or just soak in some of the information that these older techs or guys that were in the field have to offer. I myself do have a podcast too. It's on all platforms, but it's essentially if you join the live stream, and if you can't, you know, stay for the whole thing, you can't catch it live, and you want to catch it on the radio or wherever you listen to your music, you can pull it up. So that's my podcast. It's just like me answering questions from people in the live chat, and we do have a topic, kind of like what I'm doing right now. But I know not everybody catches those live streams. You might not see the podcast. So I'm going to try and do these in video form on different topics that are not talked about a whole bunch. And you'll still get service call videos. Try to do those weekly. I don't want to get burnt out. This year I want to do a lot more content, but I want to try and make sure I don't get burnt out or tired of doing them. So there'll be content weekly. And if you follow me on all platforms, you'll see more. If you don't like reading, you don't have to read books or anything like that, but you should read some manuals on stuff that you're working on. Like I recently, or not super recent, but I started working on a IntelliGen by Heatcraft, those walk-in coolers that we've been putting in. So I take the manual home and I kind of read through it, see what they recommend on certain things, see how the operation on the control board works, different menus that I can change and deal with. You know, look at all that stuff, and then look up or read the schematics on the units that you're working on, know what the switches do, where the wires go. I've had nightmares of going into a Lennox unit that I've never seen before for a new customer. Everything was bypassed. There was cut wires everywhere. So, I mean, I was honest with the customer. I'm trying to do better about not bashing anybody else intentionally or unintentionally, because I could sit there and be like, man, this other tech didn't know what he was doing. I have a mess here, and why did he do this, or why did he do that? Trying to be better about that, because you never know the situation. I do know some of the guys around here. I do know some of the companies and the techs that they have. So for certain situations, I can tell what happened, but like for the most part, like if they were lost and confused and they bypassed everything, and then they call me out to take a second look at it, I got to tell them, you know what, it was a unit I had never seen before, a Lennox. So then I was like, you know what, give me some time, I'll figure it out. So I was on the roof, I sat down and just read all the schematics. I had to figure out what wires went back where and why they removed them, what boards were out, because I had some boards that gave out. And then, you know, just get it working the best of my ability to what it's supposed to be. So, you know, things like that. Like I said, I read through schematics, I trace wires. Like, a lot of this stuff takes time, but if you don't take the time to better yourself by reading up on some of the stuff or looking up problems that you see or you have, or just like I said, just going on YouTube and watch a whole bunch of guys that are out there, like, and I'm not talking about myself, I'm talking about like Chris at HVACR videos, Rick with HVAC Survival, Steve with Everything HVAC, Hughesman HVAC, Ty Brenneman is one of my favorites, AC Service Tech and HVAC School are those kind of like schools online that are basically free if you go on YouTube and watch all their videos. So stuff like that, like if you have some downtime, you don't know what to watch, put that on. You know, you'll learn something. When I started, nitrogen was not a thing. I had older guys trying to have me go get a bucket to do the recovery. You know, fill it up with water. What else? There was just a whole bunch of things that, and I knew some of that stuff was not right. And going to school is what kind of made me aware of that. But even at school, I don't remember the whole nitrogen thing. I'm sure it might have been discussed, but without going and looking stuff up for myself or any of that, I wouldn't have known, and I wouldn't have had what I had. I mean, I came out and I'm like, I need a recovery machine, I need nitrogen, I need a good vacuum. Like, that was all me, because if I go by some of the other techs that I worked with or for, I didn't need any of that stuff, or they didn't want to buy that stuff. So there's endless resources. So like I said, if you need to, reach out to any of the guys you see on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok. I know there's a couple of good guys on there too. Ask any questions you need to. Listen to podcasts, watch some YouTube videos, Google part numbers, and get breakdowns. Breakdowns help a lot too. I go to, like, Partstown is one of them. You can get a breakdown, download them, look at them, figure out what goes where, what parts you need, like the sequence of different things. Look up manuals for everything that you see out there, and schematics are very important. You need to know how to read schematics. You might go up to a unit that's not wired correctly, and you can figure it out like that very easily. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope it helps. I'm gonna try and do more of these. This is basically the first one, and I don't know, I'm gonna have to look at it, see what I can improve on the format, and I need to get back to figuring out the setup. So for now, we're gonna do something where I can have this, and that's gonna be useful so I can take it out with me if I need to. Maybe put it together with these, because it can clip on. And then this, I'm gonna try and consolidate any leftover extra parts or whatever from the shelves to one bin. I don't like having a whole bunch of mess up here. All right guys, so yeah, I'm gonna get back to that. Like I said, hope you enjoyed. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you guys.